Hallo miteinander, I'm Gesh86 and this is Metroid II Return of Samus. Last time I was completely baffled at what these ceiling-dropping aliens were. The answer? No one really seems to know. They are the only enemy in the game that is not featured in the manual. No name, no description, nothing. I think they put those things in on Nintendo's business anniversary, and after a collective hangover, none of the developers could even identify what they had created. On the other hand, they just couldn't bring themselves to take them out of the game again. But they don't matter anymore, we're now contending with new enemies. These are Octroll. They behave just like the chute leeches that we encountered very early on in the game, but they're not identical reskins. They do more damage and also take more damage, both advantages that are completely negated by our advanced weaponry and of course our improved health and armor. So in the end, they're not different at all, even if they might be on paper. Of course, the area that we're fighting them in is a little bit tricky to navigate. We got lots of floating blocks and, of course, the acid. I think I said so in an earlier episode, the acid isn't really as dangerous as it may look. If you fall in, your health will be drained, but very slowly. If you hit the jump button immediately as you hit ground, it will probably just be 1 or 2 points of energy. Pretty negligible if you ask me. You know, not only do those Octroll look very comical, but they don't even seem to need any kind of moist environment to survive. Shouldn't they be like octopussies? Well, you would think that, but then you're forgetting that they are aliens. Nothing we think they resemble needs to actually apply. You could say that they are Octrolling us. Ahem. Oh, what devious, nasty rogues they are. At the end of this corridor, we must fight and defeat another Gamma Metroid. Here I really hated how I would scroll him off screen and would have to scroll him back on to continue the fight. Very obnoxious, but just like his brethren, he is dead now, and we can continue to search for more Metroids in Sector 5. Or wait, what is this? Yes, Sector 5 only had one solitary Metroid in it. That's kind of disappointing, isn't it? We've had previous areas getting bigger and bigger, up to 10 whole Metroids in Sector 4, but now it has dropped all the way back down. I see Sector 5 and 6 as somewhat of an intermission in the game, a break from exploring, and the game trying to get more action-oriented for a bit. I kind of like it. It's alright in my book. You know, the game really shouldn't reduce players to always hunting ancient relics, just to enhance Samus' semi-organic power suit. Nope. You know, that reminds me of something. I've often wondered what happens to Samus' suit enhancements once the game ends. Why does she keep losing them? The later installments of the series often gave you an explanation for this, but what could have possibly happened between Metroid II and Super Metroid? Yes, I know, I can hear you saying, don't think about it too much. It's video game logic, just accept it. I can't. You know what my theory is? We've got a big galactic depression going on. And with bounty hunters paying high taxes, Samus just has to find a way to make ends meet, you know? I can see her selling off everything but the most essential functions of her suit. It's sad, but she's got no choice. Especially with these outrageous fuel prices. I don't know what they put in their ships, but maybe antimatter, element zero, the melted biomass of regime critics. Whatever it is, it must cost a fortune. Poor Samus, bills are piling up and the bailiff is chasing her through hyperspace. You must be wondering why we're returning to Sector 4. Weren't we done with this part of the game? Well, we certainly were, but the entrance to Sector 6 is actually here, not in the main hub like usually. You might remember that there was an acid lake near the very start of the area, right here, below the Halcyon. But as you can see, the acid has all been flushed. If it's your first time playing this game, it'll take you a while to find this way. Or if you just have a really bad memory. Or if you just randomly put the game away for half a year. That's something I did more than just once. You know, as a kid, I would often play this game, and I would at one point not find any more Metroids, so I would just quit and dig up something else. That's really the reason why it took me so long to beat this game, because I just didn't have any patience. People often claim that kids are smarter than you'd think, but they didn't know me, it seems. In the next room, we will discover what might be the strangest creature on all of SR388. Meet Flit. These beings serve as moving platforms to help us over this acid lake. Or at least they would if we didn't use our space jump to completely break this segment. Oh Flit, I feel sorry for them. They must live a life of constant misuse. They kind of remind me of these snarky animals the Flintstones keep in their household appliances. I can already hear them complaining in my mind. I hate the world and my terrible life of slavery, but it's a living. Right here is the first of only 2 Metroids in Sector 6. He did not last long at all, did he? And with him out of the way, it is time to return to the only splitting path we've seen. Remember those 2 cocoons that we passed earlier? I guess you could call them that. That's where we have to return to. We went to the left first there, but this time we will head upwards. I decided on taking the left path first for a reason. It is not a very good reason, it wouldn't really hurt you if you did it the other way. But still, it is a reason and you will understand it as soon as it becomes relevant again. We should be getting back to that previous intersection in just a few seconds. Then you will find out that both areas have somewhat of a symmetry between them. They're not completely alike, but you will feel very familiar. We will also meet Flit again in the second part, but not in the way that you might expect it. Something that the other part of the level doesn't have, however, is right here. We will meet a new enemy called Moto, who is possibly the most durable simple critter of the game. As you can see, that title doesn't really mean a whole lot. And as hinted at before, here's Flit again. This time they act as disappearing and reappearing platforms. But one thing stays the same. They're still completely useless. Sometimes I dream of hanging myself. Then I notice I'm lacking a neck. I wonder if the creators of the game knew that these rooms were so easy to break and bypass. I think they did, kind of as a reward for the clever. With how this room is set up, it's no wonder that we're going to face another Metroid in here. This time it's not a silly little alpha, however. By the way, the reason that I came down this path last for is because there is a missile refill in this room. I just really like to end the sector on a full stock of ammunition. Mostly because missiles are just kind of difficult to refill on the go. Very few enemies actually drop them. Speaking of missiles, I've noticed that in pretty much any Metroid game, they're of very situational use for me. Usually only at bosses or when you're forced to, like missile doors. I barely ever use them against normal enemies, and especially in Metroid II. Yeah, in Metroid 2 it really seems like missiles would be impractical most times. They travel really slowly, they're pretty hard to aim, and they would just be overkill for most enemies. You don't even need their power most of the time. They could be worse though. What if you had to stand still to use them? Oh, yeah, that other Metroid game. Let's not get too much deeper into that. Our next objective will be to find the entrance to Sector 7. That one is located in the main hub area again, so it will be quite a long way to walk. Metroid 2 just loves sending us around in zigzags. We wouldn't want it any other way, I mean, it wouldn't be Metroid without that. Let's take something in comparison. If we had a Zelda game that was set on a completely simple straight path, I don't think many people would like it. That reminds me of something that fits in this LP. You know what game series has a real identity crisis? Castlevania. It's interesting that such a linear action series has turned into what people like to call Metroidvania. Now for the longest time I didn't even think of anything when I heard that term, but it's actually like shouting copycat at these games. Now I think that's a bit unfair. I do enjoy the more open-worldish Castlevanias, most of them at least. And I do think they feel very different from Metroid. For example, they are a lot more focused on melee combat, not about really shooting stuff a lot. With their RPG elements, they also make you face confrontations more than just getting to your goal. So yeah, In my opinion, they have a reason to exist. But leaving that tangent behind, we are now in a new area that will lead us to the entrance to Sector 7, finally. There is nothing too special down here, except 2 new enemy types in the next passage. First we have these acid-spewing bats called Drivel, and also eagles that emerge from the acid called Squeak. The latter ones like to shoot fireballs at you, that is if you let them. These 2 pretty cool enemy types are completely unique to this one passageway, which is kind of a shame, but at the same time, you never want enemies to overstay their welcome. Variety is always fine. It's nice when the game introduces new things frequently. Like these 2 blocks, for example. They have to be destroyed with missiles, and they are the only 2 of their kind in the whole game. Now, graphically, didn't they look really off to you? I think so. You know what I think? The graphics designer got really sick, so they had no choice but to have his dog fill in. No wait, scratch that. The dog got sick too, so they had to give their trainee a shot. And that is why we have a disgusting pixelated mess there. So, Sector 7. It's a more complex sector unlike the 2 previous ones, and given that this episode has lasted a while already, I don't want to show too much of it this time. But I do want to show this ambush. Even though this Metroid's choice of location is rather unexpected, he can't really do much against you, nothing really you can do wrong, so no problem. That's it for this time. I'm Gish86, this was Metroid II, Return of Samus, and next time we'll see what Sector 7 has to offer. Bis bald!